This podcast is sponsored by Murgatroyd, intellectual property attorneys. For more information on today's guest and our company, visit murgatroyd.com/podcasts.
Welcome to the fourth season of Murgatroyd's Innovation Talks podcast. We're delighted you've joined us. If you have any questions, you can email us at innovation.talks@murgatroyd.com or via @Murgatroyd on Twitter. And please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. So let's go straight into today's webinar.
Hi, I'm Mike Vettese. I'm a Director of Trademarks at Murgatroyd. I normally work in our Aberdeen office, but today I'm here in our Glasgow office with Chris. Hi Chris.
Hi Mike.
Chris, let's talk a bit about trademarks today, and in particular, what anyone starting a new company or a new product should know about trademarks. As a trademark attorney with many years of experience, you will have advised many companies on first steps when it comes to registering a trademark. Could you share with us any thoughts on this, please?
Well, Mike, before launching a new brand or trademark to the market, you need to make sure that you're free to use that name. The last thing you want to do is to launch your product to the market only to receive a nasty letter 6 months down the line to say stop what you're doing or else. And the or else simply means that you can be taken to court. For example, if you decide to launch a new clothing brand, then you're not going to use the name Armani, and because you know that that name is already taken. But there is more to it than that. I mean, the name Armani is a registered trademark with very, very broad rights. And like Armani, there are lots of other registered trademarks with similar rights. So for example, I had a client who was interested in the name Cynical for clothing, and we did the search, but it turned out that someone else already owned that name, and that was a little bit of a problem because the client already had stock in his warehouse. He had lots of t-shirts with the name Cynical, and so therefore that was going to be a problem, because if he decides to sell them, then he could be infringing this other trademark. The way that we got around that was that we attacked the other person's registration on the basis that they were not using it, or they hadn't used it in the last 5 years. And we went through the process. It did turn out that whilst the other side had done lots of advertising, they'd done other things, they actually hadn't used it in a genuine matter. So my client was actually successful in getting their trademark taken off the register, and it also meant that my client was free to use the name Cynical for clothing.
So you talked there about an infringement matter. Assuming that I didn't do a search and I just launched my product, for example, my clothing range, what kind of penalty could I get for infringement?
Yes, I mean, it can be quite severe. I mean, if they tell you to stop doing what you're doing and you ignore that letter, then they can take you to court and they would be entitled to remedies and damages. Now, they can force you to stop using that name, to remove that name from the products. If the name cannot easily be removed from the products, then they can ask that those goods with the name be delivered up to them for destruction, and they can also ask for an account of profit. So effectively they can ask for monetary compensation because you have been selling something with their name.
Interesting. So if I launched a product and it turned out that there was someone else using it but in a completely different field, or perhaps in a similar field but not quite the same, is a kind of coexistence agreement, some sort of agreement possible so that I can use it for mine and they can use it for theirs?
I think, yes, ultimately that there can be some sort of commercial agreement there whereby you both agree that whilst you do something similar, that perhaps your customers or your trade channels are very different, and yes, you can look towards a coexistence agreement. So for example, it may be that both of you are doing clothing, but one of you is doing clothing for women, whereas someone else is doing perhaps more medical related clothing. It would seem there that whilst you're broadly doing clothing, that the trade channels and customers are going to be very different.
Excellent.
Similar rights. Do you have any other examples to share, Mike, from your practice?
I do actually, Chris. I recently had a friend of mine who plays in a band from Stonehaven, and he is quite young, and so he had an issue with who could hold the trademark rights. He wanted to apply to register his band name as a trademark, but unfortunately he was a little bit too young because under 18s cannot hold intellectual property assets, as you know. So we had to look at an interesting way around that. So Chris, another common question relates to internet searches and domain names. So once you've registered a domain name, does it mean that you're then free to use it?
Yeah, Mike, that's a good question. The answer is no, not really. Just because you have registered the company name at Companies House, or just because you have a domain name, does not mean that you're free to use that trademark. So an example of that would be that I could probably go out tomorrow and I could register the company name Gucci Televisions Scotland Limited, I probably could find a suitable domain name, but I'm quite sure that if I try to sell televisions under the brand Gucci, that I'm going to get a nasty letter from an Italian fashion house.
So what should they do, Chris?
Well, for me, that you need to conduct a search of the UK Trademarks Register. That is critical. Whilst you can take a quick look yourself, it is important to be aware that a registered trademark not only protects the same name, but any similar names as well. So when you are looking at the trademark register, you have to cast your search net very, very wide to look for similar names or for similar products. In my experience, it's probably better that you get a trademark attorney to do that for you at an early stage, because the last thing you want to do is to think that you're okay to use that name, only then to find out nearer to launch date or after launch date that that name's not actually available to be used. The other thing is that investors will probably ask if you have done a trademark search, so that they know that there's no third-party issues and that you are protecting the business.
So you've conducted my search for me and it's nice and clear and I can use it. Why do I need to register my brand?
Ultimately, if you register a trademark, then it means that you have rights to complain. So, for example, if someone else start to use the same name or something similar, then you have registered rights to tell them to stop what they're doing or else. And again, the or else is that you can take them to court. It's also prudent to do it early so that someone else does not beat you to the punch. So if you delay and delay and delay, it is possible that a third party might try and register the same or a similar name, thus beating you to the punch. And again, from an investor point of view, they will look to see if you have registered your trademark, because it shows to them that the business is protected.
Interesting. So how do I go about registering my trademark?
Well, trademarks are registered at the UK Intellectual Property Office, which is the government body responsible for trademarks. You can either do that yourself or you can speak to your trademark attorney who will guide you through the process of registering your trademark.
Chris, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah.
Let's talk again soon.
Same to you, Michael.
Thanks for your time today. We hope you found today's podcast valuable. And don't forget to subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of our future episodes. So until the next time, goodbye.
Our business is founded on trust and collaboration. The subjects we choose for our podcasts are topical and informative. We are always looking for suggestions for new topics for discussion, so if there's an area of IP that you're keen to understand better, please drop us a line at innovation.talks@murgatroyd.com.